Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So in this week's video, I wanted to take you guys around as I'm maintaining a lot of my containers that I have with summer annuals. I do have some containers that have perennials and I may do a little bit of maintenance on those, but this is really going to be focused on those summer annual containers that I planted about a month and a half ago. So I want to show you guys what I'm doing to help maintain them by deadheading some of my annuals like marigolds and salvia and geraniums, and just show you guys how I'm doing that. I'll also be fertilizing those containers as well, and I'll show y'all what I'm using to fertilize. Then I'm also replacing a plant in a container that I unfortunately forgot to put to the side in a shadier area when we were on vacation and came back to some pretty fried flowers. So I'm replacing that container, the flowers in that container, with a new plant, and I'll share with you guys what I'm planting in there as well. So I think that's it. So with that, let's get to it. All right, you guys, so to start, I thought I would share the plant that I'm planting in my container, and that plant is the curcuma. So look at that here, just a beautiful plant. This is part of the ginger family, and this is a curcuma hybrid. Now I got this actually at Home Depot, and I'll show you guys a little video I took of some of the curcuma that they had there because they had a few different colors, but I've seen them at Lowe's too. Now I've planted this before, probably a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed having it. This is generally used as an annual, but it can be a tender perennial. It's good for zones 8 through 11. I'm in 7B, 8A in Georgia, so this is probably going to be a tender perennial for me if I choose to overwinter it. I may try my hand at that. I don't know if I'll have room in my garage to do that, but maybe. We'll just see once the time comes. Now this should flower till fall, and I wanted to show you guys this colored parts here is actually the bracts of the plant. So much like poinsettias, the colored parts that you're seeing here are not the flowers. These are the bracts, and the flowers are right here. These little flowers that you see in between the bracts are actually the flowers of the plant. So that's something that I did want to point out. I think naturally looking at this plant, you would think that this is the flower, but it's not. And they are these little flowers in between the bracts here. Now, as I mentioned, this should bloom to fall, and I'll be putting it in a pot. It's recommended for partial sun or maybe dappled sunlight. I will be putting it where it's going to get morning sun, but it's going to get some afternoon shade to help protect it against that harsh afternoon sun. So I wanted to mention that as well. So I think that's it. This is more of a tropical plant, and I'm really excited to have it. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you is you can see here, it has that pretty pink stripe down the middle of the leaf that ties into the color here on the top of the plant. So I just think it's a very attractive plant, and I'm really excited to add it to my containers again this year, even though I lost some plants and that's why I'm doing it. Nonetheless, I'm very excited to add it to my containers. Now, the second thing that I did want to mention is I'll be using this flower food from Miracle-Gro. There are a lot of different flower booster fertilizers out there, but I just chose this one. Now, I have to admit that usually in the past, I'm more of a slow release granular kind of fertilizer kind of gal. I really prefer those because I just found that when it came to liquid fertilizers, I didn't keep on a schedule as much as I should have. And I just found that the slow release really worked better for me. But this year, I am really trying to stick to a schedule. So I'll be using this. I've already been using liquid fertilizer on my tomatoes, and that's worked out really well. Now, I did want to preface and say that my plants that are in my containers don't really look like they're under stress or anything where the fertilizer might do more harm than good. I've been consistent in my watering in the mornings with these plants, and they just don't seem to be under duress. So I'm going to go ahead and use this fertilizer with my plants. This is one that I'll just dissolve in water, and I'll show you guys how I'm doing that and then watering my plants with it. So I think that's it. I'm ready to get started and just take you guys along with me, share what I'm doing, and also show you how the plants are looking today, a month and a half after I originally planted them. So I think that's it. I'm ready to get busy, so we'll get to work. Okay, so I'm first going to start off by cleaning my bypass pruners and my little snipping tool here. I actually don't know if I'm going to use this one, but I definitely will be using these bypass pruners. So I just clean mine with a bit of alcohol, and that way disease or any kind of bacteria won't be spread from one plant to the next. So I'll just give that a little cleaning here. That's pretty dirty. And then we're going to clean this one too. And I think we're good to go. So we'll move on and start pruning our plants. All right, so we're going to start with this hanging basket first. And you guys can see that I have pentas here in the middle that definitely need to be pruned. And then I have portulaca on the outside here that's still closed up. The sun hasn't quite hit it yet, and that's when these flowers really open. So I'll actually show you guys that after a little bit later in the day so that you can see those flowers. But I'll show you how I'm going to prune the pentas now anyway. Okay, so with this plant, you can see that I've got some new buds here that are just about to open, and these are on their own little stems. Hopefully you guys can see that there. So obviously I'm not going to cut that, but this is pretty much spent. I think I've got one here. So I'm just going to cut these down to the next set of leaves. So I'm just deadheading those right like that, even though I've got a couple there, but it'll come back and I'm not worried about it. You can see that I've got a couple of buds here, but for the most part, these are pretty spent and I want them to focus their energy on making a lot of new flowers rather than just waiting on one or two to go ahead and bloom. So I'm just going to go through and I'm cutting all of these down. Let's see if I can show you guys all of these down to the next set of leaves, just like that. Okay, so these pentas attract butterflies and hummingbirds and bees, and I absolutely love them. They're so easy to take care of. I really don't go through and deadhead often at all, to be honest with you, because they will continuously bloom through the summer. But I actually have these set up right by a hummingbird feeder, and so the hummingbirds can go to the feeder and they can come to these pentas at the same time. I wanted to share with you guys a little video that I took after pruning those pentas. When I am in that area, the hummingbirds just are coming up like crazy. They do not mind me at all. So I wanted to take a little video just to show you where the feeder is in relation to that container that I was pruning with the pentas, and just show you how they genuinely don't care if I'm out there working or whatever. They're buzzing around and they want to get to that feeder, so they don't mind me at all. All right, so you guys can tell these marigolds need a lot of help. This is probably the most satisfying plant to prune to me, and a lot of times I just do it by hand. So you can tell these are spent. I'm just going to pop them off, and I just do this by hand. If you want, you can cut them here at the base, but honestly, it's so easy to pop them off. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention is that inside here, and I'll show this to you guys, those are the seeds. And so I save these seeds and dry them out, and you can use them again. Sometimes I just put them at the base of the plant once I'm done popping these off, but it's just as easy as that, and your marigolds will come in and continue to bloom. Now, I love marigolds. I use them all over the garden. They are a pest deterrent, and so I love using them around my vegetables and herbs as well. And they're just a very hardy, low maintenance plant. So again, this only takes a second to do marigolds. It really doesn't take long at all. And to me, it's very satisfying. So I'll get wrapped up here with the marigolds and move on to the next plant. All right, so next we're moving on to the geraniums, and you can see that these definitely need to be cut back. These actually look like little fireworks to me when they're done. They look like fireworks in the sky, but they aren't as pretty as flowers. So let's go ahead and get those cut. Now I will cut these down to the next node. So I'm going to cut these very far down on the stem all the way to that node. We're going to go through here, and I'm going to cut this all the way down, and I'm just going to go through and repeat that throughout the geraniums. Now, I really like these geraniums, and I can't remember the exact type of these, but they have this pretty leaf here. I think they're quite lovely, and I'm just going to cut these. And that's it for the geraniums. Then we have my little container here, and you can see that these geraniums definitely need to be deadheaded. The Bloom My Mind Morning Glory below is just fine, so I'll leave that as is, but I'll go ahead and prune these geraniums. Okay, so again, we have some geraniums here, and I'm just going to cut it down to the little node down here. So I'm just going to go through and cut these down. Also have a couple of brown leaves. I'm just going to pull those out. That's easy enough to do. I'll cut this one down. This is really far down. And I've got a couple of leaves there. I'll go ahead and cut that one too. And this one. And that's it for that. So these should grow back, I'm going to say, perhaps in the next week and a half or two. You can tell that I've got some flower buds here that are already coming up. So this will start producing a lot more flowers here within, I would say, the next couple of weeks. All right, and then in this container, you can see I've got some dianthus, which actually I completely forgot about, and you can tell that definitely needs to be deadheaded. And then I also have the annual salvia here. Look at this cute little moth or butterfly on the salvia. But I've got some in bloom and then some that definitely need to be cut here. So I'll show you guys how I'm going to go ahead and deadhead these as well. All right, so next we have my salvia. You can tell this one is done. I need to go ahead and deadhead that, and I'm going to deadhead it all the way to the next set of leaves. So all the way down, and then I've got this one here. I'll let that go for now. I do have some sticks that I'm just going to deadhead all the way down too with my bypass pruners. And let's see. This one I can probably go ahead. It's got some buds, but it looks pretty spent for the most part. So I'll just go ahead and cut that down. If you guys can see right here, I'm just cutting it right down there. And I'm just going to go through and clean up any sticks that I see, like this one here. Again, I'm going to go down and just cut it all the way down. This one as well, I'm cutting down to the set of leaves right there. And so that's it for this plant. And I'll move on to the next one. Okay, and so my dianthus, I nearly forgot about this one, but I'm going to use the little snippers for this. I find that it's easier than the bypass shears or the bypass pruners because they're so much bigger, and these are just such dainty little stems. But I'm just going to cut these down to the next set of leaves. Honestly, I'm not that particular about it. If I cut it way down, sometimes I just go through and cut everything off. And it doesn't bother the dianthus. So I'll just go ahead and go through. This is a little more tedious doing this plant. I actually usually ask my daughter to do this. And so she'll go through and do the dianthus for me because she has a lot more patience than I do, if I'm being completely honest. So I'll just go through here and cut these. And I'm going to leave, you can tell that some are going to open. So it does have some fresh buds on it, but this will really help freshen it up, and then it'll come through with another big bloom. So I just wanted to share with you guys, these are some hanging baskets that I have in my front porch area. And a couple of weeks ago, I had to go through and deadhead my geraniums, and they just were little stalks, no buds. And just in the last couple of weeks, these flowers have come through after I deadheaded. And I just wanted to share it with you guys to give you an idea of how they will come back after you deadhead them and generate new flower buds and blooms after you go through the deadheading process. And again, I think this took probably a couple of weeks for these to come up. Okay, so I'm ready to move on to my fertilizing of my containers. And this is a 2-gallon watering can that I've had forever, for years and years. Now I'm just looking at the instructions on the Miracle-Gro that I've got, and it says 1.5 tablespoons to 1.5 gallons of water, and for outdoor container watering. So I'm just going to go with that. It's about 1/2 tablespoon then per 1/2 gallon. And so I've got a 1/2 gallon more in here, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. It comes with this little scoop here, and this says that it is 1.5 tablespoons. And so I'm just going to guess here. That looks about right, I would say. And then I'm going to fill it up with water. Now, when I water, I do try to adhere to the watering in the morning schedule so that the plants have time to absorb that water throughout the day. I think the second recommended watering, if you can't do it in the morning, is to do it in late afternoon. It's really not recommended to do it at night because that can open your plants up and make them more susceptible to disease. And so that's something we want to absolutely try to avoid. So I really try to stick to the morning if at all possible. So I'm just going to fill this up with water, and then I'll go around and water my containers at the base of the plant. I'm going to try to avoid the leaves and just get this right at the base of the plant. All right, so I've got it mixed in together, and I'm just watering here at the base. I'll kind of go around a little bit and just try to thoroughly water. You guys can see that the sun is now hitting this container and the purslane's starting to open up. But anyway, I'm just going to go around here and just water like this and fertilize these plants. All right, you guys, so I've got my little container here and I'm going to plant my curcuma. I've got new potting soil that I'm going to put in. And so it's just a really easy plant. I'm just going to stick the potting soil in here and then put this in. So I'll show you guys the end result once that's finished. And like I mentioned, I am going to be planting this or moving this container to more of a part sun. I don't want it in full sun because it's going to get too hot. This is a smaller container and I really want to protect it in the late afternoon. So I'm going to move it where it gets probably morning sun to maybe early afternoon, and then that late hot part of the day, it's going to be protected in the shade. So here I'm just planting my curcuma, and I wanted to mention that I'm not using that liquid fertilizer in this particular plant. I'm planting with fresh potting soil that already has fertilizer in it, so there's no need to add additional fertilizer to this particular container. I also wanted to mention, I had mentioned earlier in the video that I used liquid fertilizer in my tomato plants this year as well. Now, it's not the same kind of fertilizer. It is a different fertilizer made specifically for tomatoes. So I wanted to make sure to mention that as well. Now, after I get done planting the curcuma, then I'm going to take you guys around and just show you some of the containers that I have and how they look right now and some of the flowers that I'm really, really fond of that I've planted this year. All right, you guys, so here is an update on the container with the Mandevilla, and this is the Dipladenia hybrid. Look at this color. Oh my gosh, it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I could actually go ahead and stake it up more, but I really don't mind it draping. I just think it's so pretty. So I wanted to give you guys an update, but this is definitely going to be a plant I have on repeat for next year. So here is my wildflower garden where I just grew everything from seed, and you can tell that this is about to start blooming. I have one little bloom here. Let me show you guys. That just opened up yesterday. I had a Cosmo the day before, but this is really about to explode with blooms and I can't wait. And I'll share that with you guys once once it starts blooming and is in full bloom here in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. Now here's another container I have of garden phlox. This was in full bloom probably a couple of weeks ago. I'll put a picture of it up in the corner here just so you guys can see it when it was in full bloom. But I'm so glad I actually planted this in a container. I do intend upon moving it to my perennial garden, but the deer have actually really attacked my perennial garden this year. So I'm so glad that I have this in a container this year. And then I hope to have a plan to keep the deer out next year. And then I'll move these to the perennial garden. I'm just so glad I'm able to enjoy the perennial phlox here. Look at this bug, you guys. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so the butterflies and bees have definitely been enjoying this phlox. You can see there's a lot of buds coming in. Even though it went through its first flush of flowers here in the last couple of weeks, there's certainly more flowers to come. Now here is my Rose of Sharon that just started blooming in the last couple of weeks. It's got lots of buds on it. Just look at this bloom. This is in a big container that I have actually in the side of my yard. I love this plant. I've got a couple of Rose of Sharons, two in my perennial garden, and then I have this one in the container, like I mentioned. So absolutely love it and so excited. This is really about to bloom quite a bit. So it's going to look absolutely beautiful here in the next couple of weeks. Okay, you guys, I have to give you an update on one of my favorite planters this year, and that's this gray planter. It's a tall, skinny planter where I planted the caladium here, and then the impatiens, and Tradescantia, which is branching down below. Just look at this. I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite combinations that I did this year, and just wanted to give you guys an update on how it's filled in here in the last month. I'll link a video where I planted these different containers at the end of this video if you guys want to take a look at those and just see the different combinations that I did and how they looked about a month or a month and a half ago compared to what I'm showing you today. All right, so here's one of the containers with the plumbago, and this is the plumbago that was really small that I was starting out with. So it's been blooming. It's not blooming today, unfortunately, but you can see some buds here. But I did want to show you guys how much that creeping jenny's filled in below that. If you remember, these were just little sprigs that I had coming back from last year, and now it's completely covering this bottom area here and is starting to fill in over the container. Now this is my container with plumbago that I overwintered in my garage last year, and it is doing wonderfully. I'm definitely going to do that again this year. Look at how much it's blooming, and I actually just missed on getting a hummingbird on video that was at the plumbago right when I stepped out, but I did want to show you guys just how nicely it's filling in, and it really has done quite wonderfully after overwintering in my garage. This is a plant that's generally not a perennial in my zone 7B 8A in Georgia, but I did overwinter it in my garage and it came back and is just doing wonderfully. Let me show you guys this flower close up. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this plant. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I was so excited to take you guys around and just share some of the things that I do to help maintain my containers and help everything looking their best in my containers, particularly in the heat of summer. So thank you so much for joining me again. Now, please make sure to stay tuned for my upcoming videos, which you can do by subscribing and clicking that notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. All right, you guys, I think that's it. I hope you have a wonderful week. And until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.